Hello, Christine, my little Herstein shifter.
Hi.
My favorite little monster.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for asking. A new Fall Out Boy song came out today, and I'm so thrilled you asked my
Oh,
opinion about it. It's
uh-huh.
so good, and it's basically a cover of Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire," but with from 1989 to 2023.
Oh, I
And
don't know what
in
that means entirely, but it sounds good.
well, like in "We Didn't Start the Fire," he's like,
Yeah.
Vietnam, blah blah blah. So this one is like, Pokemon,
Oh, I gotcha.
George Floyd, Trump got indicted twice. And he says in the song, Golden State Killer got caught is one of the lines. Okay. And
Okay.
then another line is Fermi Paradox.
Oh, okay. So that's a 10 out of 10 for me.
I gotta tell you, I was beside myself. It's better than the original. Sorry, Billy.
That Fermi Paradox is where I'm sitting, and Pokemon
I
doesn't hurt.
screamed. It's like Stranger Things, Tiger King, da 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 da. It's so good, you guys.
It sounds pretty good.
Did I tell you a secret?
Did you tell me a secret? What?
I got tickets to the Fall Out Boy concert in like a couple weeks, and I surprised Renee, and she's gonna drive down, and we're gonna go.
Oh, that's very fun. When was the last time you saw them live?
I saw them in Cleveland with Renee like I think it was pre-COVID, so a long time ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know. I'm so excited.
Wow. What's your favorite song that they do live?
They performed Hum Hallelujah, which is the song that I'm gonna get my tattoo of. And it's kind of like a lesser known song, or at least like a less popular one. And so it was not on the set list that I had like studied and prepared for. And when they sang it, Renee and I were like, it's a sign, because it was our song, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I'm hoping they sing that, but now I want them to sing about the Fermi Paradox. So
I mean, I wonder if you're going to have to practice your chant, because when that comes out live, you're going to have to know what they're saying.
You know me, I get obsessed with lyrics and I memorize every single word like a lunatic. But I will say also, guess what I'm doing in 48 hours? I'm going to see Taylor Swift.
The Eras tour?
Yeah, my brother got me a ticket.
Why have we never discussed that?
Because I forgot.
Oh, most Swifties, I think, would be really gobsmacked that you could forget something like that.
I told my friend, I was like, oh, do you want to grab drinks Friday? I don't have anything going on.
Oh my God.
My mom was like, hey, do you need me to watch Leona for the concert Friday? I was like, what concert? And she was like, are you not going to Taylor Swift? And I was like, oh, right.
Someone is punching the air right now, so upset with you.
I'm sorry, but okay, to make you feel better, everybody, I've been listening to the Eras set list on repeat, and I'm fucking amped. I do love T Swift. I just like I do this thing when there's a sensory overload or like an emotional overload, and I immediately shut down and compartmentalize and put it far, far away. Like the time Chip Coffey like commented or followed me or whatever.
Oh, right.
And like I saw it and I just immediately forgot. And then you brought it up on the show and I went, oh yeah. I like totally take things out of my brain and I place them aside. So I just remembered today that I'm seeing T Swift and I'm seeing Fall Out Boy. We're all happy.
Are you caught up on like the lore that is Taylor Swift and like what all of the songs mean?
Ish. I got into kind of a zone a week ago, and I was like analyzing everything. So, but not as like Alexander's girlfriend D is like in it. Like she will argue with people about like this is Joe did this and this is about Joe. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Do you know the times when you're expected to interact with the songs?
No.
Oh, you're gonna have a rough time.
Fucking throw bread at the screen, like
Well, like there's certain things that like you have to like shout at certain sons and
Fermi Paradox, Pokemon. No.
Sure. I think you're gonna have a lot of FOMO if you don't practice the the rules. So maybe
Okay,
you have
well,
D
my
teach
brother,
you.
sister, and Blaze have not told me anything about this, and they're the other people attending with me, so I feel like at least I won't be alone. I'm going to text my brother now and say, what are the interactions I'm expected to perform at the concert on Friday?
I'll just give just TikTok 1, 2, 3, let's go, bitch. Just look that up, and that should get you in the right direction.
Oy vey. Okay, I will. Thank you for your tips.
I mean, I should be at this fucking concert, but okay. I
You
hope
should
you have.
be. Sorry, my brother apparently. Oh, my brother says, "Excuse me."
Okay, so everyone's
M
gonna feel a
says
little
there
silly.
are interactions.
Just type back 1, 2, 3, let's go, bitch.
1, 2, 3, let's go, bitch. Question mark?
No, not question mark. Just say it. See what happens.
Okay.
I know you
Okay.
put a question mark. I don't even trust you.
It's too late. I said you. I'm sorry. Guess what I'm drinking?
What? Taylor Swift's personal water, and you just forgot to mention it?
Earl Grey tea.
I'm having agua. I'm having water just like Taylor Swift probably is. By the way, this is everyone's weekly reminder to take a sip of fucking water because it's sitting on your desk and you haven't touched that cup in like hours. So
I
take a
got
sip.
a Brita filter for my office so that I would drink more water up here.
Okay, well that's nice.
Yeah, because otherwise I have to go to the 3rd floor. But the sink up here is like it's like 100 years old, and I'm like, I don't know how rusty that is. So
the sink does look a little haunted. Yeah.
Right? And so instead I got a Brita filter and I have my mini fridge and I'm thriving and I'm hydrating.
With love, if you ever had to renovate that floor, maybe just get entirely new pipes. Just rip the walls out.
The Brita filter's doing great. I don't know what your problem is.
I don't know if I'd brush my teeth safely in that bathroom. You know what I mean? But I'll wash my hands, but maybe I rewash them downstairs. I don't know.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, it's
okay.
fair. I mean, listen, I've lived in old houses my whole life. I get it. There's something unappealing about very creaky old sinks. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, creaky is a good word. Yeah. Oh, well, what do we do now?
I don't know. Are you good? I know we've checked in on your legs every day for a while.
Oh, sure. My legs are they look really disgusting. I am apparently it's hard to give an update when Christine is so grossed out with every comment about the veins.
No, it's not even every comment. Like, it's not even every comment. It was
it's
when
just
you
some.
said it's when you said some really specific things that just like hashtag triggered me. I was like, I already don't like veins. But I'm being very brave and strong for you.
Do you want to like hang up the headphones for a second while I give everyone an update? And then
I don't know. Do they want to know that? Are they going to scream and veer off the road? Like I
don't know. You gave me a platform and now I want to use it. My legs are fine. That's all people need to know, I guess.
There's
also,
vein troubles.
Thank you to everyone who apparently operates on people like me, who has written in and told me why my legs were in so much pain during the procedure.
Oh yeah, you got some. I saw on Slack some comments, some write-ins, some tips and tricks.
I'd like to give you an update, but all I'm gonna say is that apparently they were just injecting basically hydrochloric acid into my legs.
That sounds.
And that's where we'll end it because Christine will barf if I say any more. No,
that doesn't bother me. Yeah, sorry. I know it bothers you, but that doesn't bother me. It's when you get into the specifics of like what the veins are doing and look like, and oh no.
I understand.
It's also the word catheter. I really struggle with that word. It really just does something to me. I don't know. And I've had one, when I was
the catheters
labor.
are not good, especially because like never mind.
I was like, why does it smell like pee in here?
And
Blaze was like, because you're peeing. And I was like, no, I'm not.
Oh.
But I was.
Oh my God, you're talking about your labor. I thought you were talking about right now. I was like, what a topic change.
No. No, I said I got a catheter. Keep up, Em.
So I'm not surprised that you were peeing because like you're pushing everything out, but like was everyone just like watching you pee?
Well, no, it's like I had a catheter in for like 25 hours. So it was like, well, obviously over that time you're going to have to pee, right? But since they numb you all the way down there, if you get an epidural, then you can't like control your peeing. And so, yes, literally everyone just sees you peeing. It's, and then they were like, you're peeing a lot. And I was like, sorry, Jesus. Everyone was like,
I'm a hydrated girly. Leave me alone.
Excuse me. I got a Brita filter for my rusty ass sink. I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, you would think you would want women carrying babies, people carrying babies. You would want them to be hydrated since they're taking care of two beings. But okay, whatever.
I would think, but I guess everyone had a fucking problem. I was also in a bad mood. Don't ask me why. It's because I was in labor.
I was gonna say, is it because you're pushing a human being out? I'd be in a real bad mood.
Actually, it was because I wasn't pushing a baby out because she was in there for 30 fucking hours. But you know, it was not a great time. I don't know why we're talking about my labor. Oh, because catheters. Anyway, you know, we're full of ailments on this show. Is the moral of the story.
I'd argue having a baby was a chosen ailment.
Huge ailment, though. Yeah. Still an ailment. I gotta say, still a doozy on the old body. You know. Oh, you were gonna segue, and I don't know what you're gonna say.
Nope,
but
I wasn't gonna segue. I was gonna keep it up.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I'm doing a 180, but I'm very thrilled for our first shh tonight, which is
oh yes,
our sad happy hour, which Eva remarked is abbreviated as shh.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
It like gives me anxiety because I'm like, I don't like being shushed, and I'm like a little worried that every time I say it, people are gonna be like, "Are you shushing me?"
I'm more worried about like how much stuff we have to talk about.
Oh, it's a long.
Apparently, it's going to be quite a long meeting because we've been our sad happy hours usually are not that long. Usually, they're like a half an hour, but we've missed the last few happy hours.
And we've done like one ever.
Oh, I'm considering every other meeting we've ever had that just didn't have the name
before recording. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But we've never had an official sit down like this chunk of time is just to go over shit. Yeah, we had like maybe one on the phone, but this time the list just keeps getting longer, and now I'm adding shit to the list, and I'm like, oh god.
Oh my. Okay.
One of these things says color block apparel ideas from M and Christine. Like, do I remember that? No. Someone has to remind me.
No, but I love the idea of a color block.
What a great idea, M.
I love a color block.
Yeah, so guys, I guess look out for that. Watch this space, because color block might or might not be coming someday.
Oy. Well, Christine, I guess that means we gotta get things cooking if we've got a whole ass meeting after this.
Let's fucking do it.
We have 2 meetings after this.
We do?
We have a phone call.
We do?
Yes.
Tomorrow, right?
No, we have we're talking to our manager.
Oh, that's part of sad happy hour. She just wanted to pop in to have sad happy hour.
Is it? All right. Let's call it a meeting and a half.
Okay, sure.
Here we go. Here is kind of a story about an exorcism's involved, but this isn't.
You're not pitching this very well. I feel like if I were in the meeting, I'd be like, next.
Okay. Here's a story. Here's a story that involves exorcism.
Ooh, okay, I'm in.
This is the story of Sister Magdalena of the Cross and content warning self-harm.
Oh dear. Magdalena is a family name in my family.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did your family not want to include you in that, or what's the situation?
My cousin was named Magda, and she's older than me, so we didn't. I don't think they repeated names, but
Is it? You think it's going to make it to the next generation?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Her name's Magdalena. I think it's pretty, Magdalena. I don't know. It's a little too Catholic for me.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah, right up there with Jesus. You know.
Well, you know, Jesus is a name, a pretty popular one.
I'm fine with Jesus, but if I heard someone go, "Oh no, actually it's Jesus," I'd go, "Okay,
okay,
interesting."
What are you doing?
Okay, so we are going back to the 1480s. We know it well. 1487 in Cordoba in Spain.
That era of T Swift was like
talk about eras. Yeah. I bet Magdalena knew the interactive parts of the concert. She would have at least told somebody if she got the tickets.
1, 2, 3, bitch. Is that how it goes?
1, 2, 3, let's go, bitch. Yeah,
that was close.
You were. You're practicing. I like that. Okay. 1487, Spain. Sister Magdalena is born. This is where our story begins. Her parents were artists. They did not have a lot of money, but they were very religious. Spain equals Catholic a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Okay, let me write that down.
Yeah, that one I think you know.
I think
just from the normal indoctrination.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds familiar.
Apparently, as Columbus was sailing the ocean blue, at 5 years old,
to rape
Magdalena,
and pillage everyone. Sorry.
Thank you. Nope, that's the truth. We should rewrite the jingle.
Ooh,
I think.
Yeah, good idea.
5-year-old Magdalena, at the same time, has a vision in church.
Uh-oh.
She hears music out of nowhere and sees a very beautiful man with long hair and a mantle, which like a robe worn by prophets. It was so bright that she had to close her eyes.
Oh my.
This man comes to her in church. She immediately tells people in the church what happened, and they think she has been visited by Jesus.
Yeah, you got to be careful back then what you say. I mean, now too with the internet, but like back then you say like anything slightly weird and they're like either you're a witch or like you're a saint. Something dramatic is going to happen.
And honestly, I guess this wasn't the era of like witch trials, not to my knowledge, but if you say I had a vision, that could have gone real bad for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's a scary thing to admit to multiple people.
Thank God they believed her and like
in a good way.
In a good way, yeah.
Yeah.
So they thought she had been visited by Jesus, and therefore she must be like, I guess, her own prophet or, you know, someone to look up to as a religious authority. So at 5 years old. So people are starting to travel to her just to meet her, just to have prayers answered or prayers, you know, interacted with. I don't totally understand how it works, but people wanted to see her, and they had prayers that she, in theory, could, you know, resolve for them.
Okay.
Interact with. Go 1, 2, 3. Let's go, bitch.
Vamonos.
So during this,
biatch. I'm trying to think of how you say that in Spanish. I'm sure it's not that.
I don't know how you say bitch. Puta? No?
I think so. I mean,
okay.
It's close enough.
Spanish speakers, weigh it. Okay. 1, 2, 3, vámonos puta.
Beautiful. I'm going to say that at the concert.
Okay. That'll definitely work in your favor. At least
I think.
It's got a creative flair to it, which I appreciate.
Wait, I have an idea. What if I text everyone who's going to the concert and be like, this is what we have to do? And then I sneak away to buy a beer. And then when they do it, everyone has to laugh at them.
The sick part is I do think you could find the name and number of every single person who's going to this concert.
I meant my group of people. But yes, I could also find the several tens of thousands that will be attending. Yeah.
I really just thought you were so casually saying I'll text everyone.
I'll text the entire stadium of people.
If anyone could do it, it would be you.
I do appreciate your immediate just getting on board and saying, sure, go for it.
I'd say 1, 2, 3, vámonos, puta, you know? So now people are following or coming to her just to talk to her, just to see her. Again, she's 5, so I'm immediately running on the theory that she felt a weird pressure to continue to impress. So she's during this time when people are approaching her, she's constantly having more visions, which we don't know if that's legit or not, but you know, you decide for yourself.
Yeah.
And not only is she having visions, during this time she is falling into religious ecstasies.
Oh no.
Which, do you know what an ecstasy is?
Yeah. It's
I did not. So a religious ecstasy is, have you seen people have these moments?
Sorry, I think there was a lag on my end and it sounded like I was just blurting in. Have I seen someone have this? No, thank God.
Apparently these ecstasies are an altered consciousness when someone theoretically connects to the spiritual world. I imagine this is similar to like speaking in tongues or something like that.
That's exactly kind of how I picture it, like the Catholic version of that. I feel like it's kind of in my mind when people had seizures back then, they were like, oh, it's a religious ecstasy, but that's just my own understanding. So I don't know.
I think in a world where seizures were not considered seizures yet, it was misdiagnosed as something.
Something, right?
And why not make it religious? Fun fact, when it comes to religious ecstasies, Christians would test people to see if they were truly having an ecstasy Do you know this? What happens? They would put, I'm so sorry,
Pins?
needles.
Oh, I knew it.
Into the hands and feet of someone having an ecstasy to see if they would react or not.
I did know that for some godforsaken reason. I don't know why I knew that, but I did know that. Yeah, that's horrific.
So, if they reacted or winced, then it meant that they were still of
Liar!
They were in their physical body with their physical consciousness, and thus could have not been in the middle of ascension.
Gotcha.
So anyway, she's going through religious ecstasies, and her popularity grows. More people travel to her, and Magdalena obviously gets overwhelmed with this and runs away.
Oh, honey, she's so little.
She runs and hides in a cave, and there she has another vision. And when she wakes up from the vision, she wakes up in her own bed. When this happened, she claims that her guardian angel brought her home,
Aww.
which led her to being much more trusting in her gifts, and it kind of emboldened her dedication to Christianity because she truly thought her guardian angel.
Well, that's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute, and then also damaging because now she's feeding into her own.
Right.
You know, like if this was mental illness or something,
right.
We're just totally ignoring that, and she's becoming very pious in what this is all about.
Gotcha.
So she begins to deny herself pleasures and avoid temptations to impress Jesus, I guess. And soon she has another vision, and Jesus comes to her. And Jesus tells her to, I appreciate the penance you're giving yourself, but chill the fuck out. If you keep doing this so intensely, it's going to affect your health.
You're also 5.
Take a chill pill, girl.
Eat an Oreo, it's okay. Don't deprive yourself.
If you gave someone from 1492 an Oreo, I think their brain would explode.
I think their body would explode. They'd be like, what is hydrogenated oil? It's killed me.
What's lard? Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
dead now.
Have you ever seen those games on those TikToks of things that would put a little orphan girl from the past into a coma?
Yes. It's my favorite. Out of context, that sounds really bad. I don't mean it's my favorite, to put a orphan in a coma. I mean, in context of the game. Yeah.
We love orphans in comas. We love that.
And you know what? I'm just going to say it, and I'm not going to back down, and I'm not going to make excuses, because this is the real me. And if you have a problem,
then maybe you need to learn and listen.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It's not on us.
Sorry. But I'm not.
So, Jesus did not offer her an Oreo. Jesus just said, fucking relax.
Chill.
I like to think that is actually a direct quote from the Bible. Fucking relax.
Relax. Take a chill pill.
If that was something from a Bible, that would be on every t-shirt, by the way, that a church had to offer.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be their peace, pray, love, or whatever.
Peace, pray, love. Yeah,
is it eat, pray, love? I don't know.
Eat, pray, love is a fucking
a book, not the Bible, but a book.
Oh my god.
I'd be really good at making Christian shirts, I think.
My Bible is eat, pray, love. So if you have a problem with that, you can go eat, pray, love somewhere else. You eat, pray haters.
So he comes to her. He says, you need to relax because you are avoiding too many indulgences. You are denying yourself too many pleasures. You're a 5-year-old. Chill the fuck out. And I guess oh God, you're frozen again.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry, Jack, our editor. I'm sorry. What a mess.
It's literally been
this is a disaster.
An hour and a half of us with technical difficulties, it seems.
I mean, nonstop, the number of files. And I told Em, I think it's because we were talking about renovating this floor, which is where my ghost Harry lives. I'm like, I think maybe he's offended that we want to get rid of his rusty pipes. So I apologize. Em loves the state of our 3rd floor.
Loves it. Wants to gargle the water. Yes.
Oh my God. What the F? All this nonsense just to hear about little 5-year-old Magdalena.
Yeah. Let's just let's just dive in.
I had to get my vape out for this.
Should I just start from a few bullets ago and just see?
Jesus showed up. I remember that. And
Jesus showed up and said chill, because she was taking her penances too seriously, which, by the way, if you don't know what a penance is, because I did not grow up religious.
Of course I know. I live in penance. I'm going to hell every second of every day.
It's a punishment for your sins. Is that right?
Okay. Yes, it's basically like you are doing penance, like you are atoning for your sins.
Okay. So she was apparently doing too much at 5, which, like, I don't even want to know what that looks like. But she was stressing herself out. Jesus showed up. That's how bad she was stressing herself out.
Yeah, seriously. Like, even Jesus hasn't even shown up for me, and I feel like on the stress level, you and I have been pretty high up there.
Yeah. So he shows up and says, "Chillax." Then she decides that she's going to run back home because remember she ran away.
Oh my God! Wait, I got it. A new T-shirt. Chillax, chapter 4, verse 20.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good one. I like that, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
What book is that from, though?
A book of Christine.
Okay. As you take a vape, yeah.
Yeah, well, by the way, this is Delta 9. It's legal, federally legal in all states before anybody on the internet is like, cancel this video.
Okay. Fair enough. That's a good point.
It's legal.
So she runs back to her local church and she begins to pray and has another bout of ecstasy. Someone finds her in the church while this is happening to her. And a fun fact, they tried to look in her eyes, and in the reflection of her eyes, they claim to have seen the Holy Trinity and saints. That's a lot of things to see in one eyeball.
In the reflection of her eyes.
How many saints are there?
How close are you to this poor girl's face that you can see all that?
Plus 3 more, the Holy Trinity. So there's a lot going on in that eyeball.
Hold on. How do you see the Holy Spirit or God? I don't understand how you see the Trinity.
And how do you see the saints in like 4K where you know that you're looking at saints and not just like yourself in the reflection of the eyes?
Right, like a blurry person.
Yeah, how is it so defined?
Maybe they have halos or something.
Well, shortly after this, people begin claiming that she's now also healing them.
Oh, okay.
So one guy told the town that Magdalena had actually cured his limp, and another person who had trouble speaking said that she had cured his voice.
Oh.
So now she's also a healer. So she's becoming more and more that of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And the church is now getting freaked out because it's like, how are you healing people? You know, these ecstasies was one thing, but now like seeing people walk without a limp that they always had is kind of crazy.
Yes.
Many of them are getting like skeptical at this point that like something's going on. They try to interrogate her. She's 5 and nothing comes from it. Meanwhile, the town still considers her incredibly powerful. However, 3 months before her first communion, she decides that she's going to fast until the communion.
She can't decide that. She's 5. Like, that's so upsetting.
Her parents would beg her to eat.
Okay, well, that's good at least.
And she would say that she did not need to eat food. I would have just started shoving food in her mouth or something. I don't know.
Jesus is like, did I not just tell you to chill out?
Yeah, he's like, she's really just going against. Maybe she thought that was a challenge. I don't know.
She's like, oh yeah, I get it. Wink. And Jesus like, no wink. She's like, wink.
I'm on to you, JC. So despite her fasting for 3 months, she does seem to be perfectly healthy, which, by the way, like emboldens people's belief in her that like she was meant to do this and Jesus is looking after her. And But when her communion actually came around during the ceremony, she loses it. Apparently during the Eucharist, which again, I had to learn what that is. It's when they...
Em, where have you been? You don't know what the Eucharist is?
No, I've been to a church maybe 10 times in my life.
I know, but after rituals and all that nonsense, we talked about Catholicism. I feel like I taught you a thing or two.
You did, but it was one of those things where I can't simply remember every episode we've ever covered in detail.
Fine.
So I know I've heard of the Eucharist, and I know that the wafer is involved, but I don't know what it represents, you know?
The body of Christ, and it doesn't represent the body of Christ.
It is.
It's literally his flesh.
Okay, so anyway, during the Eucharist, when the shitty wafer is turned into literal flesh, and you're supposed to now be a cannibal, I guess. Magdalena begins screaming and falls to the floor. That, like, as if her body repels this part of the ceremony.
Oh no.
I guess because she does not want to receive Jesus.
Oh no.
Or her body or soul or something does not. She ends up on the floor screaming. She gets up and says that she does not need to take Eucharist because Jesus has already put the wafer in her mouth himself. Nobody saw it, but apparently that's what happened.
Wait, okay. Is this like a magic trick?
That's
like,
what I'm
check your
thinking.
Pocket.
Yeah, again, this person's 5. I'd start to wonder, like, where logic ends and, like, a 5-year-old is telling you a story begins.
And a 5-year-old is being a 5-year-old, right?
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to eat a shitty wafer, which at 30, by the way, I'd also have a panic attack if I had to eat one more of those things.
I think they taste good.
Do you? Well.
It's probably a little thing called Pavlovian conditioning.
So she says, I don't need to take Eucharist. Jesus has already, like, handled that. So, and then they believed her because she's got, like, these prophet abilities. And so they just kind of let her get away with it, aka she never truly received Jesus, if you are following the Christian understanding of that. Then, a few years later, 1497, she's now 10 years old, and Magdalena is now dressing very modestly to humble herself. I guess the people in town thought that she was very beautiful, and to her that was a sin. So she was like, that can't be the situation. Modest is hottest. We're gonna have to really get it together. And as penance for her beauty, wow, the fact that, like, anything could need penance. She began to self-harm with flagellation, which is beating and whipping yourself.
Yeah.
And so you'd think, like, oh man, that's really sad that a 10-year-old is whipping herself because she hates how beautiful she is. So twisted.
That's dark. It's extremely dark.
Okay, hold that comment and say it in about 30 seconds. Because after self-flagellation wasn't enough, she decides to crucify herself.
What? Okay, listen, is she jealous that, like, she didn't get stigmata like the other saints? And so she's like, I guess I have to do it to myself.
She literally, on her own bedroom wall, nails her feet down into the wall and her left hand.
And then she's like, wait a second.
Yeah, she's like, I can't get all the way there. That's so fucked up.
I mean, it's so fucked up. Like,
it also shows, like, a 10-year-old clearly not seeing something through, like, not thinking it all the way through,
right?
Even in the most basic way of, like, who's gonna nail down the other hand. And also, like, let's be realistic. And this, I know this is a fucked up conversation to have. I'm very aware of that. But, like, I am impressed is the wrong word, but I don't know physically how you actually nail your feet to a wall and then stand up and get your hand up. I don't know how that actually works.
I agree. That seems
it seems impossible.
Also,
impressed is the wrong word, just to clarify, but I am trying to figure out how that was even possible.
Yeah. I have a fun fact about the crucifixion.
Okay.
So actually Jesus, when they crucified people back then, which was a form of execution, like not just Jesus, it was like a more widespread thing.
Okay.
They wouldn't nail you in the hand because your tendons would tear away too easily. And so they would nail it right between here, like on your wrist. And so that's why. So actually, his wrists were the ones that were nailed in. And then
I always wondered, because I feel like some of the statues are hands, some are wrists.
Yeah, it's the wrist for sure, if it's at least historically accurate. And it makes your hands kind of like fold in. Also, also fun fact. I learned that in the 2nd grade.
Oh, wow. So you were just about her age.
Yeah, Mrs. Ucotter was like, your tendons would rip out. And I was like, cool, this seems like perfectly healthy conversation to have.
In this one space, we're adding science to the mix of Christianity. I love
right.
it.
I know. I'm like, I literally heard myself say, oh, well, if his crucifixion was historically accurate. And I'm like, what am I saying right now? This is the craziest conversation.
Okay, so she literally nails herself to her own bedroom wall, which, by the way, imagine being her parents and walking in on that.
Like, they talk about parents walking in and seeing kids sharpieing the wall. This is like that times 8,000.
Your child's blood everywhere because they're
like,
trying
Hi,
to.
Mom.
They're trying to prove that they're worthy or something.
They're like, you won't eat a grilled cheese, but you will nail yourself to the wall. Cool. This is definitely.
Well, also speaking of, I guess not really science, but just another logical factoid that I wouldn't have even thought of is that she nailed herself to, I guess, essentially drywall of the 1400s because the wall gives out under her weight. And now she's nailed to a wall and the wall comes crashing down in her room. And then she breaks her ribs on the floor.
Oh, so she fell forward.
She fell forward because the wall, I guess, couldn't support her weight.
My guess is that back then it was probably just like timber.
Clay or something, yeah.
I would think probably just like wood planks or something. She probably just knocked it over.
And she fell over, cracked her ribs. And then a doctor tries to mend her wounds.
Okay.
And she kept trying to take off the bandages to expose her wounds as penance. Again.
Girl, like this is so, like I wish.
It's obsessive. It's like.
I just wish there was like child therapy back then. Or
I know.
Any therapy. Like this
any
is so
therapy.
upsetting.
And it obviously made her sick because she was exposing massive wounds to like really important parts of her body.
Yeah.
So it made her ill. So she was now bedridden. And the whole time she is still fasting, by the way.
I mean, come on.
How, and on top of that too, this is just like a weird thing about her. I guess not weird. That's the wrong word, but, people are trying to make it into a spectacle where she, I guess, had 2 fingers that just had some sort of like thing and they never grew to full size. So they just stayed like the size of like a baby's fingers.
Okay.
They try to turn that into like, oh, well, Jesus touched these and they stayed small forever. Like they try to turn it into a thing.
What the fuck?
So she's bedridden from refusing to have bandages on her wounds. I wanted to throw in the, I guess, fun fact about her fingers because they try to turn that into something. And while she's bedridden, as the clock struck midnight on Easter Sunday, of course, she sits up in bed, starts screaming, rips off the new bandages they just put on her, and she says that Jesus Christ has come and is healing her.
Oh, no.
And she doesn't need the wound. She doesn't need the wound bandages because he's going to heal them.
Oh, God. Jesus is my Band-Aid. That's another t-shirt I'm going to make.
And somehow her wounds actually are healing. I don't know how that happened. Scientists weigh in. She continued, though, to self-flagellate daily for another 6 years. Oh. And by 16, she's doing this every night. And yet somehow her wounds are completely healed by morning.
Okay. I mean, you're right. This is like deep self-harm stuff. Like, yikes.
So now we're in 1504. She's 17. And Magdalena joins the convent called Elizabeth of the Angels. And she becomes a Franciscan nun. Mm-hmm. Fun fact, do you know the difference between nuns and sisters?
No.
Apparently, which I think once I say it, you'll have recognized it, that sisters seem to engage with the public and do acts of service and charity, whereas nuns are in solitude and rarely leave the convent.
Oh, I didn't know there was a difference.
So, fun fact for you, I guess I'm the Christian here. That's crazy.
Whoa, how the tables have turned.
With the reputation she has of being a literal living saint, many people were thrilled that she had chosen to join a convent. And for the day where she was doing her holy orders, where she like takes her vows of, worshiping Christ, she was told to take them in private when that's usually not the case.
Oh.
I guess it's because she was seen as so powerful Usually the church will bring in all these like nobles and an archbishop and everything, except they're usually the religious authority over you while you're promising yourself to Christ. But for her holy orders, the cardinal asked her to pray for them.
Shut up.
Because so immediately from like the get-go, she's being seen as more powerful than them.
Yeah. She's like top of the food chain.
Climbing the ladder real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So she was given the name Sister Magdalena de la Cruz, or Magdalena of the Cross, because of her self-crucifixion story. And during one of the prayers during this day, a dove came in and literally landed on her shoulder, and then it looked like the dove was whispering to her, and then it flew like you're Snow White.
I want a morning dove to come coo coo in my
ear. Yeah. And so he went coo 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 and then flew up to the ceiling and continued to watch the rest of the ceremony. And many people thought that was the Holy Spirit coming to visit her on her holy order stay.
I did ask, what does the Holy Spirit look like? Yeah, a dove. That would make sense.
A dove. After this, many patrons began donating quite a lot to the church that she was a part of. So just another maybe potential pressure to continue on with this. And after she became a nun, she began having remote visions of areas that she wasn't even in. So her powers are growing, and she could recite conversations people were having in spaces she wasn't even nearby.
She's like an astral spy.
Aha! I like that. She not only knew about conversations, though, she also knew where missing items were in other rooms and what was going on outside of the convent, even though she never left the convent.
These are the superpowers you and I would dream of, like being able to overhear conversations and like finding all the shit that I lose.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's all we need in life.
It's it kind of feels like the Fasting Girls episode that I did, or with Molly Fancher, and
yes, where she could read through a letter like she knew what it said. Oh my God, yes, 100%.
That was episode 321, if anyone wants to listen to it.
How do you remember that?
Huh.
How do you remember what episode it was?
Because I looked it up on our episode guide on our website.
Oh, I thought you just kind of had the thought like, that reminds me of that one thing from episode 321. I was like, Jesus.
Oh.
I was so impressed.
I mean, I have a Rolodex in my mind that's just constantly flipping.
But Eucharist kicked right out of there.
Kicked right out, yeah. So her reputation grew outside of Spain, and while she continued daily self-flagellations and having frequent visions, she's still fasting. She hasn't eaten since like 3 days before her communion, or 3 months before her communion.
Oh, boy.
And now she's 17, maybe older. She claimed that she no longer needed to eat because she was sustained by the Eucharist alone.
Okay.
Soon her visions started leading to glimpses into the future. So it wasn't just visions of things happening in other areas in the present.
Ooh,
she was now able to see the future. One example is that she was able to predict the death of a king, and she also was able to predict a cardinal coming to power. And people started writing to her for prayers and advice about the future. Even wealthy people were sending her generous donations and gifts. It made her convent the richest in Spain.
Dang.
And, fun fact, this is a quote, King of Spain Charles V and Queen Elizabeth asked for a piece of her habit to wrap around their own expected baby, Prince Philip II, to give him the assistance of a living saint from birth to envelop him in divine grace.
What the fuck? That is also the longest request ever.
Yeah.
For a piece of cloth.
So even royals are saying, like, please, like, can we have a relic of yours?
Bless my child.
And keep my kids safe.
Wow.
Royals, again, were sending gifts and asking for prayers. Even the Pope was looking to her for prayers, which, like, you might as well be the Pope at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Step aside.
She also was looked up to in decision-making for the diocese, which obviously no other nun was expected to do. And March 25th, 1518, she told the abbess, which is like the convent mother.
Oh, okay.
Abbess. She told the abbess that she had miraculously conceived a son. The son of Jesus. And she was pregnant with a holy child.
Oh my God. I did not see this coming, like even a little bit. You just shocked me.
Ironically, this day, March 25th, 1518, was the feast day of the Annunciation, aka
oh boy,
the day Mary found out. Oh, Christine, you went away. Christine.
I'm so sorry.
Did the last one save?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
oh wait.
Welcome. No.
Oh shit. Did it save? I'm gonna scream. I don't even know what happened. I'm gonna scream. Well, at least our audio saved. Right?
Okay.
Like our episode saved.
I mean, we're recording locally audio.
This is like such a mess.
So we'll just
Jack,
put like a fun picture up or something for the time we've
we'll
lost.
Put a picture of stigmata up or something. Wow. Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened. My browser just like fucking closed and it didn't save our video. This is like
the part where I'm saying, hopefully we look better than we ever have on YouTube. It's just gonna be a black fucking picture.
So you're like, if you're watching on YouTube, we look crystal clear. So embarrassing.
Oh, Christine.
I'm so sorry. I don't even know what I did. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I think it's because we keep like talking trash about Jesus or something.
I literally think that
be.
Somebody's mad at us is what I think. Yeah.
It's gotta be.
This is so mortifying. I'm sorry, everybody. And I'm sorry, Jack. We owe you. We're going to buy you a case of beer for this one.
Yeah, something. Whatever you need. Wild. I don't know what to tell you.
Not touching anything.
Okay. Where were we? Oh, she is announcing she's conceived a holy child.
I think
with
I
Jesus.
was so shaken that like I overrode my own internet connection and just like shut my computer down. Like that really shook me to my core, that announcement you made. And it was the Feast of the Annunciation.
So, yeah. So, March 25th, 1518, ironically, is the day of the feast day of the Annunciation, which is when Mary found out she was pregnant with a holy child.
Right.
So, of course, happy anniversary. Now we've got another generation.
Mary's a grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, God. This is so fucked up.
So now she is pregnant, and the abbess was, and I hope I'm saying abbess right. I'm sorry.
I think you are.
New to a lot of phrases. The abbess was real worried about this coming out because half the convent actually believed her, and the other half thought she had just broken her chastity and was hiding behind her power.
Yeah.
3 midwives, gross, examined her and say that her gross virginity was still intact.
No.
Thus, it must be a true immaculate conception, and anyone who doubted her has to give penance.
Okay, I'll give some penance, I guess, because I don't fucking believe it.
The ultimate gaslighting.
Yeah, right?
So, fun fact, during her pregnancy, Magdalena got more serious about her penances because whipping herself and fasting and never letting wounds heal was not enough. She began, while pregnant, walking on broken glass.
Like, hello, now there's a baby to care for. Stop hurting Jesus' baby.
And she's walking on broken glass and then not letting the wounds heal properly. So,
God damn, this is disturbing.
Christmas Eve arrives. Of course, they knew on the day when this baby might be coming.
They gotta share a birthday.
Christmas Eve arrives, and Magdalena prepares for giving birth soon, but she does it, interestingly, in a house with no witnesses.
Oh, no.
And she claims that she needed to do this on her own without any medical help because, quote, it was important to suffer more. So she's saying like, oh, it's penance again. It's penance.
What the this is like, she's so mentally ill. This is horrible.
Yeah. So 3 days later, she comes out and says that she did in fact give birth to a son who shines so bright that the house lit up like daytime. Okay. And yet no one saw through the windows a shining situation.
Yeah, true.
She said during those 3 days that her usually black hair turned into blonde ringlets. Okay. She said that she swaddled the baby in her blonde ringlets. She said that she wanted to cut some of them off as a keepsake. But when she woke up, her hair was black again and the baby was gone. And we should just all be okay with that.
Oh, no.
A missing holy child.
Oh, no.
Now, I feel like your brain is going true crime real quick.
No,
but
it's not. It's going mental illness.
Okay, cool. Because I didn't want you to think that, like, oh, she did have a baby and killed it.
No, I don't think where that part really happened.
She did show... Well, apparently people saw signs of her actually being pregnant. I'm wondering if there was, like, a belly or something.
A pillow.
Or it could be, like...
pregnancies, I don't know.
Or it could be, like, I didn't know I was pregnant, and she's just somehow rocked the skinny look. I don't know. Yeah. You know? So I don't know. I don't know what she told people.
She's wearing all these big, modest outfits, you know? I don't think it would be like...
You're totally right. She could have stuffed her tummy.
I'm just saying.
Let's see.
Or
so
there is a such thing as a hysterical pregnancy.
That's true.
Where, like, you believe you're pregnant and your body actually shows signs of pregnancy. And that's, like, more common than you think. So that could be, if she really believed it.
Well, she really believes she also gave birth to a baby who vanished and her hair went from black to blonde to black. So
yeah, that should tell us all we need to know, I think.
But she did show signs of having recently given birth and of recently breastfeeding. So she had, like, her chest was chapped and looked really swollen.
Fuck?
Midwives, again, gross, examined her, and I say gross not because, like, an examination is gross.
Is that gross?
Because, like, I'm sure it's violating when it's unneeded, especially, like, to see if her virginity was intact and stuff.
Yeah, that part was definitely gross for sure.
But anyway, they do an examination on her and say that she has just gone through birth. Her body is showing full signs of having just gone through birth.
What in the world?
The curls that she cut off are considered to be relics by some.
I thought she didn't get to cut them off.
I think she cut them off, like, kind of a la Tangled Rapunzel, where, like, once it was cut, the magic went away.
Oh.
That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So she did cut some curls off, and they're considered to be relics, but others started doubting that any of this was genuine. I wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
And they tested her by waiting until she went into another ecstasy and putting needles in her hands and feet.
God, I was waiting for the needles to come back.
She actually did not move, so they thought that was weird.
Yeah, but she walks on broken glass for a living.
That's true. She's so used to pain at this point.
Like, hello? She could probably just ignore it.
So she was locked away. This was another test they did. She was locked away with guards for 24 hours to fast, and somehow she appeared in the garden. And she claims that St. Francis teleported her. She had to have used a different word because there's no way she knew the word teleport in the 1500s.
His hoverboard arrived at my window. Yeah.
So, but I mean, anyone could argue that maybe she paid off a guard, or she said, like, I am a prophet, you have to listen to me.
Or
and
she
then
climbed out the window.
Or she climbed out the window.
Yeah.
But they tried locking her away to the best of their ability, and the guards denied ever letting her out. And she appeared in the garden, obviously teleporting.
Mm-hmm.
And when a spot opened for Abbess, when the last one was retiring, Magdalena pretty quickly became the new abbess, and a very cruel one, because remember, she loves her penance.
Oh shit, I didn't even think about it being on other people.
She began demanding intense penance on the nuns. She switched out the whips so they would have iron tips.
Oh my God.
And she began to make them crawl on the floor and lick other nuns' shoes in the shape of the cross.
Okay, so this is just, like, now becoming a very abusive situation, not just toward herself, but now other people. This is disturbing.
This is another quote. This is from The Baffler, which I sure am baffled.
Written by us.
Yeah. It says, they were encouraged to wear crowns of thorns and belts with spikes pointing inward, to kneel on nail-studded boards, to stretch out on the floor, and to have other nuns walk over them.
Oh my God.
She was known now as Mother Magdalena, as the convent mother. And she said by the way, everyone else still had to, but she no longer had to attend confession because I guess God told her that she didn't have to. And that she was recently experiencing souls from purgatory appearing before her and confessing to her. And if souls were coming to her for confession in lieu of God, then all of the nuns need to confess to her instead of priests. AKA so she can control their penance.
Yeah, and my literal next thought before you said it was, okay, so she's God now in her own mind because she doesn't have to confess to God.
Mm-hmm. And others are
people
confessing
to her. So she's kind of, God is not needed in this equation anymore. She cut out the middleman.
Exactly.
Just confess to me. And
in which case, why do you need penance? Unless it's
that's so controlling too, to be like, everybody in the place has to tell me what's going on and what they did.
You know what's particularly sick is that if she's now giving them intense penance and she's acting as God, she gets to pick their horrible penance, and it's for her, not for God. You know?
Yeah, true. Like she's determining it.
I won't forgive you until you do this.
You're seeking my forgiveness,
not God's.
So kneel on this glass. Oh God, that's so upsetting.
Despite support from nobles, dignitaries, and high clergymen, the nuns in her convent were scared shitless of her and would obviously lie to avoid trouble.
Good. I was like, did they have to? Because they're nuns. It's like you're stuck at this point. You're like, I don't want to lie. Like that's a sin.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm glad.
I like to think there was like a secret club or something where they were like, when she's not around, we have to actually figure this out.
Yeah. We can confess to each other or to real God.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. So she seemed to give worse punishments to those she did not like.
Wow, shocking. Kelsapries.
Like Sister Isabella, who ran against her for abbess. She also turned down girls coming to the convent for random reasons, and then she started getting petty with her visions. One example was that she had a vision, looked at one of the sisters, and said, "The Holy Virgin has appeared to me and led me about the corridors last night, and she smiled at you, sister." But then she would look at a nun she didn't like and say, "But she only gave you a long look of scorn."
Oh, no.
So it's like only the Holy Virgin only kind of is okay with you as I am.
Yeah, it's so weird how they mirror, but she is my mother-in-law, so we just want to keep our relationship friendly and close.
I did have a baby with her son, so we're I see her for Thanksgiving. That's about it. It's not that serious.
TBD on where the baby is, but
he flew away like a dove or something.
I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, check the rafters.
Potentially out of fear, Magdalena was still reelected as abbess 2 more times.
She probably rigged the fucking votes, or she probably, whatever. Yeah, least surprising thing ever.
Yeah. And when Isabella finally did beat her eventually and became abbess, she made Magdalena lick the floors in the shape of a cross. So go Isabella.
Has there not been a fucking BBC snappy dramedy about this? I want to watch this.
I want to watch Isabella finally get hers. And she said, "I waited a long time, but 1, 2, 3, let's go, bitch. Lick the floors."
Yes. But she said, "Uno, dos, tres." And then
Vamonos pucha.
Magda licking the floor.
So now that she was off of her high throne as the abbess, the other nuns began to ignore her visions and ecstasies because she no longer could make them do anything. So they used to help bring her to bed when she was having one of her visions, but now they would just leave her on the floor. And then some of the nuns found a box of wafers under her bed. So she had this, I guess, act where during some of her ecstasies, she would manifest magically this Eucharist wafer.
Shut up.
And now that they found a box of them under her bed, they're like, okay, this doesn't seem like they were so manifested as you just had it in your pocket.
Oh, dear.
In 1543, Magdalena got sick, and when a priest came to take her final confession, she went into ecstasies again. Of course, probably to avoid having to confess anything.
Yep.
And the priest said that her eyes moved around wildly, which indicated a fake ecstasy.
He's like, "I've seen this one before."
And just in case, he decided to do the needle thing again, and he was going to poke her when she went into another bout of this. And she did not react, but interestingly, she did react, while her eyes were closed and didn't know this was happening, he dipped the needles in holy water and then tried stabbing her. And that's when she reacted and she freaked out.
What the fuck? That's
First
weird.
of all, not sterile. They're dipped in holy water.
That's sterile, right?
Are they sterile? Isn't there like
miraculous.
a little oil in that?
Well, it's like from God, right? So.
Oh, so like not scientifically sterile. I don't know.
No, of course not scientifically.
But who cares about that?
But who needs that?
So she freaks out when the holy water needles are touching her. And this is when he says, oh, she must be possessed. And
he's like, oh, it's been a devil this whole time. Cool.
This whole time. She must be. And the next few weeks, she does seem to often be writhing. There's a quote, writhing in convulsions and speaking blasphemies. Mother Isabella, I'm surprised she even gives a shit. She should be like, you know what, you can rot. But Mother Isabella calls an experienced priest and orders the demon to say its name. And this is when Magdalena laughs maniacally and says, there's a demon in her named Balbon. And when they begin a formal exorcism, another demon called Patorio says that he's also there. So
I'm here too.
So there's a little ragtag duo inside of her.
And Pinocchio. Okay, who else?
So the demons, they say that she, when she was 5 years old, made a deal with the devil. When she saw the beautiful man at church who everyone thought was Jesus, it was actually Satan. And he and he promised her fame for her obedience. So that's how we got where we are today.
Intriguing. I did not. This is a plot twist.
Well, I told you there was a little bit of an exorcism here. So
yeah.
Apparently the beautiful man was never Jesus. It was Satan all along. And they said that it was because at 5 years old, she was in fact a very good religious girl, but they wanted to, quote, ruin one of God's favorites.
That's so fucked up.
AKA all of her visions were never from God. They were always of the devil.
Oh dear.
Another quote from the Baffler. During this exorcism, the Baffler says, the Inquisitor made the sign of the cross over her, and she rolled on the floor, striking indecent poses and mimicking the vile copulations that she had performed with Balbon for nearly 40 years. The cries of ecstasy that the nuns had heard so often coming from the cell were the sounds of this satanic lovemaking. It was Balbon who secretly fed her all the years when she claimed to eat nothing but a communion wafer. Her pregnancy was a cruel joke they had played on the nuns and the clergy. She was impregnated with a monstrous caterpillar, which escaped from her body with a loud wind that came from that famous Christmas night, before changing into Balbon himself and repossessing her with unprecedented vigor.
I think I'm higher than I thought. What? The actual fuck did you just say to me?
That's why I didn't try to change any of it.
I'm so glad you just fucking rolled with it, because my jaw was on the fucking floor, and then caterpillar, and I couldn't even hold it in anymore.
From beginning to end. So apparently she has been sleeping with this demon since she was 5 years old.
Fucking hell.
And she, during the exorcism, started positioning herself in ways that mimic what she had been doing with the demon for the last 40 years.
Okay.
Everyone realized the screams they had heard, her ecstasies were actually a different type of ecstasy, if you know what I'm saying. And the pregnancy was never a holy child. It was, as you said, a caterpillar. And then the caterpillar was born and turned into the demon, who then repossessed her. So he was in her, then he got out of her, then he went back in her.
Okay.
Foul.
This is just horrifying.
Caterpillar. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay.
Caterpillar, like, really? There wasn't anything mother animal she could think of?
Yeah. And also, I guess if we're like totally looking at this warped story, it would make sense why she felt the need to do so much penance, because it was actually the demons torturing her from the inside out.
Right. And they're like, yeah, that's a good point. It's like, yeah, you'll be famous, but you'll be fucking miserable the whole time. You know?
Yeah. So Magdalena was eventually fully exorcised, and ended up going to court. I don't know what she was sued for, but I guess
I would sue her for probably a number of things at this point.
I don't know if it was for like the assaults that she had committed and called them penance. I don't know if it was
not.
For fraud.
That part was probably allowed. It was probably something different, honestly.
All I know is they like sent her away from the convent and they had the courts deal with her. And the courts pretty much decided that they said a possessed person. So they're really running with like, oh, she was possessed. That wasn't even up for debate. They said, oh, well, you were possessed. And the only way that we know that you wouldn't be possessed anymore is if you could confess. Basically, a possessed person could only confess if they were truly exorcised, implying that they were genuinely repenting. And because she was at church and telling her side of the story, they considered that a confession. Okay. And due to all this and her age, which is now like 60, they sentenced her to, this was her punishment. For everything she's ever done to people, this was her punishment. Quote, to stand on a scaffold for an afternoon with a cord around her neck, a gag in her mouth, and a candle in her hand for everyone to see her repenting. She was forbidden to wear a black veil for 3 months, and she had to walk last everywhere when in a group. Which, like, the social anxiety of that last one is real.
Yeah, but, like, I had to do that when I was little, and I didn't fucking do anything wrong. It was just, you know.
I always ended up last in a group on the sidewalk, but...
Me too!
I was always that person who walked on the grass and not the sidewalk.
Yeah, of course you were. But the least surprising thing ever.
But apparently that's a full religious court-decided punishment.
I mean, they couldn't even Snapchat that back then. Like, what's the point? Like, you get to entertain yourself see her up there.
And
you don't even get a photo of it.
And after that afternoon, I guess, she was moved back to a different convent where, like, if you don't ever leave the convent, you don't even have to worry about walking on a sidewalk in a group or whatever it is.
Yeah.
She ended up in 1560 at 74. She died after moving to a different convent. And today she is an example to be skeptical about divine experiences not because of mental health awareness, but because of the devil. Because the devil is so good at tricking you into thinking something.
You know, it's disturbing because remember at the beginning I was like, oh, if she were anyone else, this would have been a witch trial instead. And like right after that, a witch shit started happening. So it's like an interesting little segue that they're like, oh, it's the devil is in her. Oh my God, what a wild tale.
I know. So a lot of people believe that I guess her case was legit, but I mean, there were some things that never got explained and like seemed a little hard to wrap your head around. But
right.
So a lot of people do allege she was truly demonically possessed. Other people think that maybe she was just mentally ill. I am one of those people.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you on that one, or at least it's most likely. But what a story! I had no fucking clue, and there were a lot of plot twists. I did not see the pregnancy coming. I did not see like, oh my God, it was okay. The caterpillar's on another level. That was like not a plot twist. That was like a fucking plot tornado.
Yeah.
Just like caterpillar, what baby demonic caterpillar. It's a lot. Wow. Good job.
Did you have fun?
I mean, I think so, except for all the times that like I fucked up our recording. So
okay, well, hey, we could still do it again. So
hey, it's only 2.5 hours into our recording session. So if that tells you anything, folks, like I don't know what the audio's at right now, but
yeah, it's gonna be it's a lot.
I have a good one for you today, Em.
I'm ready.
This is the story of the Lady of the Dunes.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I thought you might. Because it's a Massachusetts story.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we're going to P-Town, Provincetown. You know it?
I know it not well, but I know it.
We're just acquaintances.
We've met at a party once or twice, but that's about it.
Yeah. So it's awesome. I've been there. It's known for being like very gay and just like a fun fucking time.
That's all you had to say. Sign me up.
I know, man. Well, I thought maybe you knew of it. But I've been there. It is a delight. You should go, folks, if you have not. It's on the tip of Cape Cod in Massachusetts. But way back in the day, before it had a really great pride, etc., it was a whaling and fishing town. So,
ooh, okay.
you know, it had its origins, much like probably a lot of other small towns on the East Coast. It was a whaling and fishing town that saw a lot of hard times. But by 1916, this is where we see the shift, it began to shift into a thriving art community with painters, writers, actors flocking there every summer. Many of these artists and creators were gay, and the town became known as a place where the LGBTQ plus community could gather, you know, as like a safe haven almost, if that makes sense.
Precious.
Yeah. Yep. In the 50s and 60s, police tried to shut down drag shows and gay bars. Good thing that's in the past. Oh, wait. But business owners fought back because these laws, well, they weren't good, but also they were hurting tourism. So it was like, you know, let's support the gay people because they bring us money, which whatever path we got to take, I guess.
Rainbow capitalism, baby.
Right, rainbow capitalism. Exactly. So Provincetown kept blossoming, and then in the 70s, it became like just like a summer party destination. And it does have a year-round population, which is very low. So it's about 3,000 barely.
Okay.
But in the summer, their population can jump to 60,000.
Wow.
From 3,000 to 60,000.
That's I'm trying to do math and I don't even know why. That's crazy.
All I know is that it's 57,000 tourists coming to town in a day, or like, you know, in one period of time.
What is that, like 22 times the amount of people that are usually there? Jesus.
A lot. So a lot of people, you know, come and go through this area. Through its history as an LGBTQ plus safe haven, it's been highly valued for being kind of secluded and a little bit anonymous. And that kind of anonymous culture sheltered many people from discrimination. There were the other side of that coin, I guess, is that people exploited that anonymity. In other words, it could be easier to get away with crimes in a place like this because you're a stranger and people respect your privacy because, you know, there are people here who have been discriminated against for being queer or other or different. And so, you know, they're trying to give everybody their own solace, but some people take advantage of that and commit crimes knowing that they can get away with it.
Sure.
So, on July 26th of 1974, a 12-year-old girl was hiking with her family a little east of Race Point Beach when she spotted the body of a woman lying face down in the dunes.
Okay.
The woman was in a dense thicket of scrub pines, and her body had been there for nearly 2 weeks under the summer sun and was badly decomposed.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't know how hot it gets there, but the summer for 2 weeks is all I really need to hear. And like
by
also
the ocean.
by the water. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. So the woman was naked. Her head was resting on a pair of her own Wrangler brand jeans, sort of like she was sunbathing.
Okay.
And a blue bandana was down there as well. And she was lying on a beach blanket. So it was almost as if she had been, actually the girl thought that this woman was asleep at first.
Okay.
From a distance because she was so still and she was lying as though she were like sunbathing. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that illusion was quickly shattered because her head was crushed.
Holy crap.
Yes.
Crushed? Like, could it have hit a rock on the ocean or something?
So, no, she was up in the dunes. So she was...
Oh, right. And she was sunbathing.
Yeah, she appeared to have been sunbathing. Mm-hmm. So basically I'll just give you the facts here. She had suffered severe head trauma, her face was crushed, and she had been nearly decapitated.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So I also think, and also I'm going to use my context clues, and because you keep saying appear to have been sunbathing, I feel like maybe she was placed that way because there's no way you just get casually decapitated and you're just lying there and letting it happen.
Very interesting because there is definitely a debate about that.
Okay.
So, yes, you're on to it.
Okay.
You've read the context clues properly. Good job.
Thank you.
So she had also been strangled, but the cause of death was ruled as blunt force trauma, and the blow to her head was so severe, like I said, her skull had been crushed.
Hmm.
There were also signs of sexual trauma.
Of course.
Of course. She had been penetrated with a wooden object after her death.
And you know the only way they knew that was because there might have been splinters.
Oh, God.
That's so horrible. That's so
horrific.
Horrible.
It's horrific. So the weird part is, which is basically what you just alluded to, there was no, and I mean zero sign of a struggle at all.
Okay.
It seemed like she didn't fight back at all. Even the pine needles, like next to her body, were undisturbed. Like everything was just completely placid. Investigators believe she knew her killer and that she was asleep when someone came up behind her.
Sure.
And attacked her and bashed in her skull.
Sure.
So I guess this is where I say that is the theory among people who believe that she was sunbathing in that spot and that she was just asleep or just didn't see it coming.
Right, for her to not move at all. And
for her to have no reaction whatsoever. So that's the theory. But then some people, kind of what you said, think like, well, she must have been placed there because there's zero sign of a disturbance at all. So it's kind of debated.
Especially, I would say that currently, because if you're going to decapitate a person and there's no like significant pools of blood anywhere.
So there was blood.
Okay.
Just
by the time people got there, it was gone, or?
You know, I wonder if that's part of it. I think also everything just seemed so contained that it was like that. Exactly. Some people are with you and are like, there's no way this happened right here. So it's unclear. So you are onto something that's a point of contention.
Okay.
Among people. It gets worse because her hands had been cut off at the wrists and presumably to remove fingerprint evidence and erase her identity. And on that note, might as well make it worse, the killer also removed her teeth.
Oh, yep, dental records.
Yeah, exactly. And that just goes to show, in my mind, someone knew what they were doing.
Yeah, or at least, yeah, sure. Knew what they were doing.
This is the time before forensic files and all that. So it's like,
okay,
it's not necessarily common knowledge, you know, unless you are in the criminal circles where you know to remove someone's teeth after you murder them, you know.
I wonder if that was why the near decapitation happened. Like they were just trying to get rid of the whole head.
Oh, God.
And they just, like, it ended up being too difficult, so they couldn't get through it. So then plan B was remove the teeth.
You know what? I wonder if that's part of it. But even if, yeah, true.
Because if they're not getting rid of the fingers, they're just getting rid of the whole goddamn hand.
Right.
Maybe not get rid of the teeth, but get rid of the whole goddamn face. Because the face could also have been identifiable.
True, but they did kind of bash her face. Like they did attack her face, and I think that probably is what they were trying to do. Is I don't know about that. You might be right on that was part of their plan originally. So yeah, it's all just so. I mean, it's horrific. It really is. And so, you know, she'd been there for 2 weeks. Obviously, her body had been like brutally assaulted, and so it was just it was impossible to identify her, to figure out who this person was. So they tried to trace the police tried to trace any tips they could to construct an identity, because how are you supposed to find the killer if you don't even know who was killed?
Mm-hmm.
So what they determined about this woman: she was white, roughly 5'6", 145 pounds, and could have been anywhere between 25 and 35 years old. She had red hair and her toenails were painted pink. There's something about those details that are like so intimate and like,
yeah, it says more about her personality,
right? And like about like what they were doing and ugh. So a dental friend. Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say like also like pink fingernails. It's like, you know, she was fun and like,
yes,
you know, she
and
was
she's like going to the beach. You know, there's something so dark and twisted about that specific detail.
It's sad.
A dental forensics examiner painstakingly pieced the pieces of her skull and teeth, the remaining teeth, back together in an attempt to like create like a facial reconstruction of her. They were able to determine she had 7 gold crowns on her teeth. And at the time, in the mid-70s, this would have been around $8,000 worth of dental work.
Wow.
So basically, this is someone well off or who has been treated well off in the past. Unfortunately, despite being such a gruesome and brutal murder in like what's considered a very safe place, there were 0 leads. And the entire region like took off with this story. So one journalist named Steve DeRoches said in a documentary on the case, quote, "At its core, it's an unsolved crime. But over the years in Provincetown, it's sort of taken on, I guess you'd call it almost a ghost story. One thing you have to understand about life out here is that everything gets romanticized and mythology can take over very quickly."
Ooh, okay.
This woman became the Lady of the Dunes. News of her vicious killing went global. Everyone wanted to know who she was, but no one came forward with any missing persons reports. They like scoured the area for any matching missing persons reports. Not a single one matched. And keep in mind, it was tourist season, peak of the summer. You're getting tens of thousands of strangers from all over the world coming here. So
could have been anyone.
Anyone from anywhere. And same goes for the killer. Like that person could have been anyone from anywhere.
I mean, they could have like even known each other and been on vacation together and like one left. Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's no way to know if she even knew the person. So a forensic anthropologist attempted to create a 3D facial reconstruction with clay, and police were able to release sketches of what she may have looked like when alive. There was one detective named James Meads, and he was determined to follow every single lead. He followed up on thousands of phone calls from people who thought maybe their daughter, their sister, their friend was the missing Lady of the Dunes. He had people for years send in dental records trying to match them to the teeth that they had of the Lady of the Dunes, but not one ever matched. He would go on television. He outside of work would go and report in national magazines trying to ask for tips. He traveled around the country personally on his own dime to follow up on leads. Like this was his case.
Wow.
He also contacted thousands of dentists hoping someone would have records of this very expensive at the time dental work.
I mean, that's a smart move. That's the best play to have is like,
right?
We know how much this would have cost.
Because it narrows it down significantly.
Significantly, yeah.
Yeah. So every lead, despite all of his hard work, led to a dead end. Detective Meads had the victim's body buried in a cemetery under a grave marker that read "unknown female," which is like not quite romanticized, but you know. He actually kept her skull as evidence to continue comparing dental records to missing persons, and he kept it close by as a reminder to keep working on this case diligently, nonstop. So in 1980, investigators exhumed the woman's body to take blood samples. You know, it's been half a decade. They're like, maybe we have furthered our technology. We can get some more clues. Their hope was to match her blood type to that of a missing person.
Okay.
They got the blood samples, no matches. 7 years later, which is now 13 years after the murder in 1987, a woman in her early 20s called from Canada, called Detective Meads, with a bizarre report. She said she remembered seeing her father, this is wild, she remembers seeing her father strangle a woman in Provincetown when she was a child.
What?
Right?
Okay.
What the fuck?
Strangle and kill?
I believe so.
Wow.
And she believed maybe this woman was the Lady of the Dunes because they would spend time in P-Town and that's where this happened, her memory.
Yeah.
But this woman, so this was like one of the biggest leads they had. This woman ended up moving and never contacted police again, and they could never find her.
Oh,
and so this
what?
Was, I know. So this was just like this lead that
She must have gotten freaked out or felt guilty or something.
It makes you wonder. And like, sure, it's the 80s, so maybe she moved and she like changed the phone number and it was hard to track her down. Or, you know, maybe there was you're right, like maybe her dad was still alive and she was being threatened, or maybe she retracted her story. Who knows? But in any case, they could never find her and she never reached back out to police. So this was like a big, big, big dead end. Mm. The trail, unfortunately, went cold, even though tips kept rolling in. But investigators didn't give up. Of course, the town of Provincetown largely moved on, but the Lady of the Dunes became almost like a folkloric, like a mythical figure. And people would grow up hearing her story and contemplating who this could be. And I mean, just the mystery of like not knowing who this like beautiful young woman is, you know, it's obviously like captivated people. Detective Meads was like still as go get him till the day he retired. But at a certain point, he realized he had to accept that he might never solve this murder. And, you know, he retired, and his only hope was that another detective would step in and care as much as he did.
Is there?
Is there what?
Did anyone show up? Anyone is dedicated?
We'll see. We'll see.
And her name was Christine Schaefer.
I wish I were making big waves like that in the world, but
the day that you tell me that you're like covering an episode and you're like, by the way, I cracked the goddamn case. This is episode 1 where I actually figured it out before anyone else. I'd believe it. I wouldn't even be like...
That's the best part. You literally thought I could text an entire stadium of people just on a whim. Like individually text all of them. So I don't doubt that I have your full support no matter what I tell you.
If you told me you solved a murder, I'd be like, well, that was kind of destined to happen, huh?
What if I told you I was pregnant with the devil's baby?
Also, I mean, I would have at least 3 questions, but it wouldn't take much.
No,
other people, they'd maybe have 10 questions, you know? So,
but you just have a couple clarifying questions and then you're on board.
I would just be like, sure. Of course. I couldn't. How did I not see this coming?
Yeah, Kelsey. So in 2000, the Lady of the Dunes body was exhumed again, and this time it was to take DNA samples because we've fast forwarded through forensic science, and now we can test DNA. A woman in Colorado at that time believed the Lady of the Dunes was her daughter, who had actually escaped prison in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and had gone missing in 1974, the year that the Lady of the Dunes had died. So they took a saliva sample from her to see if there was a match to the body, and they weren't related. So this specific lead was a dead end, but they were now able to use this DNA in the future if anybody else came forward and said, you know, I think I know who this is. So unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I don't know, it's just tough to hear that they exhumed her a third time in 2013. It's almost like,
give it up. Like, just let her rest. Let her rest.
That's the thing. It's like, you know, they're doing it to try and give her like a proper burial and identity. So it's like, of course I want them to, but it's like heartbreaking every time they dig her up again, you know, and then it's like she's not resting. You know what I mean?
It's like what Jesus said, like fucking relax.
Chill out, you know? But no, but like I want them to keep working toward this. It's just like, it's hard to hear. So meanwhile, you know, we're now in the internet age in the 2010s, and people are launching their own investigations. People are writing books about the case. They're speculating in forums about who the Lady of the Dunes could be. Some people actually believe she was an immigrant from Ireland who got caught up in some human trafficking scheme in Provincetown. But also James Whitey Bulger, you know him?
No, should I?
Oh my God, yes. He's like one of the most famous like Boston mafiosos, Whitey Bulger.
I feel like the name Whitey is a classic like mob name, but I don't. Well,
he's like a tip top of the top crime boss situation.
Tip top of the top, got it.
Yeah, and he frequented Provincetown in the 70s.
Okay.
And he was a notorious mobster from Boston. He was spotted several times in local bars in P-Town, and some people believed that he could have been linked to the killing, especially with like cutting off the hands, removing the teeth. Like apparently that was a thing that he did, and it was like to hide the identity. So, you know, it wouldn't be that shocking. And investigators couldn't prove that there was a link between Whitey Bulger and this victim, but it's a theory. In 2013, Whitey Bulger was arrested after a life of crime. He had been convicted of 11 murders, was given 2 life sentences. He was a bad dude. And he didn't go to prison till his 80s. So, you know, he lived out a majority of his life just the way he fucking wanted as a villain. And then in his 80s, he actually went to prison and was beaten to death by other inmates.
Wow.
So detectives on the Lady of the Dunes case acknowledged they were running out of time to charge someone with her murder because whoever did it would either be very old or dead by this point. You know, it's been so many decades. They hoped maybe Whitey Bulger or someone would make like a deathbed confession and solve this cold case, which, by the way, was Massachusetts' oldest cold case. But like I said, James Whitey Bulger ended up being beaten to death in prison. There was never a confession, and no one else ever came forward. But people kept speculating. In 2015, a college professor and his students took, by the way, coolest college professor ever. Like, let's solve a cold case. I mean, hello? I want to be in that class.
No, you would be the professor of that class.
Okay, kids, listen up. Yeah. Leona, grab your shovel. Oh, Lord. So in 2015, a college professor and his students took soil samples from the crime scene because people were still visiting this dune, like where the body was found. This was almost like people would stop by. It's like almost a tourist attraction. By the way, when I went to P-Town, I did not know it was the location of Lady of the Dunes, or I probably would have gone.
You would have absolutely gone.
Yeah, we all know I would have gone. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know. Next time. So they were hoping in this college course to uncover some sort of DNA evidence, but it's been 41 years after the crime at this point, and it's sand. Like, it's the beach. It's sand. Like, you're looking for DNA samples. That's going to be...
I don't think I understand, like, what... Like if DNA, I assume when it comes to sand, because it's loose ground, nothing's going to stay absorbed for very long, or it could get moved around very easily, especially after 40 years, it could get kicked up.
Right.
But I don't know if like maybe like sand granules actually do hold, like they absorb it enough that
maybe if you dig deep enough to like soil, maybe there's soil under there. I don't know how sand works.
Which like it is wild that like if let's say there is like sand, because I would imagine sand is absorbent, but then I would imagine it just turns into like kitty litter, like it becomes like a solid mass.
Clumping. Yeah.
Which maybe that would have made it easier for them to just pick up the bloody samples and toss them, and that's why we never found anything.
But also DNA could be like pieces of hair or like fingernails, you know, so maybe that.
It's wild to think that there could be like on that beach there could be a piece of hair,
right? That would like just crack the case wide open.
Yeah.
And you think about like a town like that. I mean, this is Massachusetts. Think about the winters. Think about storms. Like in 40 years, you have one fucking hurricane or one storm. And I imagine most of that sand and shit is washed away. But listen, this is why, despite M's belief in me, I am not a professor of forensics. I just...
You're telling me the only thing that you have like minimal confidence in is like soil samples. So like
okay,
I still believe you have a chance. Just
we'll
so
do
we're clear.
Like internet forensics. I could probably teach that, you know, like social media forensics.
How to hack into a mainframe in 30 seconds or less.
Just your casual mainframe 101, you know. Now I have a very fun fact for you, and I'm surprised. I was surprised when you said you didn't know Lady of the Dunes, not necessarily for any reason except like this fun fact, which you might have heard of because it's a doozy. So in 2015, Joe Hillstrom King, son of Stephen King, came up with a theory.
I immediately believe it.
I know, and it's so creepy and good.
He has to be careful with the type of power he has. Sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
No, he said that basically. He said, like, listen, knowing who I am, maybe I'm just sending everyone in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But he had a thought, and it's a very compelling, I will say. So he thought he was watching Jaws, as the son of Stephen King would, and he realized that one of the extras in the background of the beach scene looked identical to the recreations of the Lady of the Dunes. So Jaws was filmed right nearby in 1974, the same summer as her murder. And when he released this, he put it out there that he felt it was too silly, quote unquote, to take to the police. Like, he put it on Tumblr because he was like, I don't want to, like you said, like, throw some wild thing into the mix. So he wanted to test it out on the public first. And people went fucking bananas. The theory went viral. People were trying to track down cast records for the extras in Jaws. Like, people were zooming in to, like, look at who this person was. And, you know, to not so much success, because it turns out the director did not have anybody write their names down for being an extra. It was the 70s. You could just wander on set and be an extra.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's too bad. Also, if you see, actually, I'm going to pull up the photo for you because it's pretty creepy. This is an angle of the extra wearing Wrangler jeans and a blue bandana.
Yeah.
You remember?
It does look a lot like her.
But you remember the blue jeans and
yeah, and the blue bandana
and Wrangler
Interesting.
Jeans. However, you know, that was a very common outfit back then. Like, Wrangler jeans isn't the most compelling thing, but it is pretty interesting.
The blue bandana is more shocking to me.
I think the blue bandana is pretty stunning of a connection. I don't know, but either way, I guess Stephen King's son was like, there she is. I don't know how he happened to be watching Jaws that closely or that carefully.
This is it's like such a, like, he had to have paused it to like go up to like run to the bathroom, right. And when he came back, he was like, wait a minute.
And it's doing that like staticky thing on the TV.
Yeah.
Wait, no, this is 2015. What am I talking about? I'm like,
you know, okay, never mind.
Like, you know, he had it on his Victrola.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What am I talking about? I don't know anymore. Okay.
Stony baloney.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Did I convince you? Okay. So in 2014, Detective Meredith Lober spoke in an interview on the 40th anniversary of the murder, and she, I know you asked me, was a detective who had taken on the case almost, if not as ardently, as our Detective Meads had.
Oh, okay. Hey, I like that.
She did it. And she said this case haunted her, you know, almost as much as it haunted him. So she told the Cape Cod Times, "Some murders are never solved. I refuse to believe this is one of them."
Okay.
I just love that. They're like so fucking on it, you know? I wish every case had people vouching for it. Like, you know, and it's hard to think too. It makes me a little bit, it's like a double-edged sword, because I'm so thrilled that they're, you know, going to bat like decades later, half a century later, like really want to solve this. But then I think about all the people who are killed and missing, whose identity we do know and don't have anybody like tracking down their killer, or I don't know. It's like a little double-edged sword. Like, it stings a little where I'm like, that's great, but I just wish that
or the people
more...
who like their hobby is trying to crack a cold case when there's like people who need help that are alive right now. And like, I don't know. I then again, I guess if you're a hobbyist and not the police,
I was going to say, I don't know. I'm all about solving a cold case and getting justice. I just, when they say, you know, when it's this one person, obviously that's great, but I just wish all the other unsolved cases had people this dedicated and like this had detectives this devoted to the case. You know, it's like a good thing, obviously, but I wish it were more. I wish the love would be widespread, you know? So Detective Lober shifted her focus to raise money for a new casket of the Lady of the Dunes. And I thought that was kind of touching. You know, she wanted to give her more of a proper burial.
Mm-hmm.
When she was last exhumed, her metal casket was rusting and falling apart, and Detective Lober wanted to give her a little bit of dignity since they couldn't really give her an identity.
Mm-hmm.
Things looked bleak. You know, we got into 2020, 2021, we're in mid-COVID. Then 2022 hits, and there's
last year.
Tremendous breakthrough last year.
Shut up. I thought this was not going anywhere.
No, we're talking almost 50 years later.
Okay.
Mere months ago.
Was it Stephen King's son? Was he right?
Cracking this fucking case. So detectives used... Can you guess what they used to find out? Here's a hint. Golden State Killer was caught.
Like Golden State Killer?
Pokemon.
Oh,
Pokemon.
wait.
That's
Fallout Boy?
No. Okay. Okay. You know what? I'm speaking to not the true crime half of the show. I should be more respectful of that. No, they used genetic genealogy. Like how they caught the Golden State Killer.
Of all the things I was gonna say, even with
that
clue, it
on
was
the list.
I was like, did Taylor solve it? What happened?
Taylor Swift did it. Yeah. Oh boy, no, they used genetic genealogy, forensic genealogy to crack the case, to track down a family member with the same DNA linkage to the Lady of the Dunes. This is how they caught the Golden State Killer. So on October 31st of 2022, we're talking this past Halloween as we record this, the Boston Division of the FBI, along with state police and several other official entities, announced during a press conference that they had identified the Lady of the Dunes 48 years after she was murdered.
Wow.
And I gotta say, like, I've known about the Lady of the Dunes for probably over a decade. Like, this is one of the earliest stories I remember learning in true crime. And just that feeling, like I had with Golden State Killer, of like, okay, let's be honest, we're never gonna figure this one out. And so it's like so shocking and exciting when they actually do figure it out half a century later. So the woman's name was Ruth Marie Terry. Oh, and by the way, I listened to several podcasts about the Lady of the Dunes before, while prepping my research. And they were all before she had been identified.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so weird to hear, like, the past, like, you know, I hope someday this gets figured out, but, like, not much hope. So it's weird to look back and be like, oh, wow, only a year ago, like, we thought this would never get solved.
Yeah, it's so wild. Especially one of them might have come out and been recorded like a month before then.
Right, like right beforehand. Be like, it's been 48 years. What's going to change? Well, yeah, look out. So Ruth Marie Terry, investigators said, quote, she was a daughter, sister, aunt, wife, and mother. She had connections to Michigan, California, and of course, Massachusetts. She wasn't an Irish immigrant after all. She had actually been born in Tennessee in 1936 and was only 37 when she was killed. Ruth left home as a teenager. She had married once and divorced. She then moved up to Michigan, where she gave birth to a son in 1958 at the age of 21. She gave him up for adoption as an infant to a couple she worked with, and eventually she moved back to Tennessee. There, she was married again and made her way to Massachusetts, where she died. So, in 2018, her 60-year-old son, biological son...
Oh, shut up.
Richard Hanchett decided to try to track down his biological mother. Yeah. Growing up, his adoptive parents told him stories about her. He knew she had auburn hair and that she loved to sing. And she had actually tried to reach out to him once in 1971 when he was 13 years old. And this is heartbreaking. At the time, he wasn't ready and he refused to speak to her. And so now it's 2018 and he's trying to figure out where she is, not knowing she had been murdered only 3 years after she tried to contact him, and he refused to talk to her.
That's so sad.
It's so sad. He took a DNA test through Ancestry.com, which got him in touch with his biological family, who told him that his mother had been missing since the 70s, and they had been searching for her for decades.
Did any of them, when she went missing in the 70s and the Lady of the Dunes story was catching on, did any of them put the two together?
No, I don't believe so.
Wild.
Yeah, it's almost like ships in the night, like this is all going on. If only they had like seen the right news headline, or it's hard to believe. But there is no known report of her as a missing person, so that's part of it too, is they never reported her missing officially.
Right.
And Ruth had always sort of been kind of nomadic. Like, she had wandered, she made her way all over the country. And so when her family realized she was missing and couldn't get a hold of her, they didn't even know where to look. So, even if they had seen the Lady of the Dunes headline, they might not have connected the two. They didn't necessarily know she was in Massachusetts. They did say, however, that they had been hell-bent on finding her, and some of her family members died of old age, hoping to one day discover what became of her. Little did they know she was famous in like the worst way possible,
Yeah.
Oh, it's just shocking. So authorities eventually matched her DNA to her son through these genealogy websites, and they took another DNA sample from him in 2022 to confirm the relation. And they told Richard, the Lady of the Dunes is your biological mother.
Wow.
So what a shock. He had to learn all about his mother, obviously from the past. Her nephew remembers her big smile. She was kind, compassionate, and independent. And this is sad, and we probably saw this coming, he deeply regrets giving up the opportunity to speak to her when he was 13, of course.
Sure.
But, that's not his fault, which I'm sure he knows by now. Richard told the New York Times, "Everybody that I talked to who knew her adored her. I wish I could have just talked to her, touched her just once." It makes me sad.
Did he know about the Lady of the Dunes? Has he made a comment about that?
That's a great question, Em. I'm honestly not sure. I wonder if they probably would have said if he knew.
Sure.
But I don't know. He hopes to eventually have her reburied permanently beside her parents in Tennessee, where she can finally rest forever with a name and an identity. This other sad part of this is Detective Meads, who had been so devoted to her case, died in 2011, so he'll never know Ruth's name. Or will he? In my version of the universe, he does.
Okay. I'm glad you've got your own version.
No, I mean, like, in the I think once you die, like...
Oh. I see what you're saying now. I thought you meant like
I'm just rewriting the story. No. Sorry.
I was like, wow.
In my own personal belief in what happens after we die, I believe it's possible he does now know who she is. And
gotcha.
I mean, not to be that woo-woo, but maybe from the other side he was able to move things in a certain direction. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be. His determination obviously still lives on, to the point that District Attorney Michael D. O'Keefe said investigators had not given up on Ruth's murder because Detective Meads had kind of started that train of really devoting himself to the case. Her identity led to a new lead about the murderer himself, a man named Guy Rockwell Moldavan. Court records show that Ruth had married him just 6 months before she was murdered, and Guy is believed to come from a family with multiple properties in and around Provincetown. So in 1960, so like 14 years before she was killed, Guy was called in to answer questions in connection to the disappearance of his former wife and his own daughter.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's not good. And human remains believed to belong to his wife and daughter were found in the septic tank under the home where they lived when they went missing.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's suspect number one.
Prime ass suspect. That same year, he was also called in for questioning on 2 cases in California where he had previously lived. One case was that of a murdered truck driver, and the other was a missing waitress, and his name had come up in connection with both of those crimes. He fled from Seattle to New York, where he was later arrested. He was charged with unlawful flight for, piecing out of town. And he was never, ever convicted of these murders. And guess what? 14 years later, his new wife just gets murdered on the beach. What a mystery.
If it was him, like, to think that you got away with it for 14 years, 40, 50 years.
Now 50. Right, exactly. Horrifying.
Wow.
Like, what a streak to be so lucky like that, which is the worst word to use, but you know what I mean. It's now widely believed that this man, Guy, was responsible for the murder of 2 of his wives, his own daughter, and possibly 2 other people. Unfortunately, he died in 2002, so there really is no way to
he got away with
question him. Yeah, exactly. He lived out his life, basically, having done these things, if he did. Provincetown police are actively, as of this past November, requesting any information anyone might have about Guy and his relationship with Ruth, because we still don't know that much. And in November, District Attorney O'Keefe didn't rule out the possibility that Guy might not be the killer. You know, he said in a news conference, it's very likely that the person who did this is dead, but they may not be. And so the message to them, if they're still out there, is, we're coming.
Oh, apocalyptic.
Anyway, that's that story.
Wow. Juicy stuff. Sad. I mean, like, I never know what to say, but in terms of enthrallment, that was quite a good story.
Yeah, it was. Both our stories had a lot of random plot twists, I feel like.
I really thought that was going to end with and we're still searching. I really had no idea we were going to find somebody.
And I've been meaning to cover the Lady of the Dunes for years. So it's like, thankfully I waited.
I didn't know this was one of your, truly. I didn't know this was one of your very first true crime story interests.
And it wasn't even like I had a specific interest. It was almost just like I've known about it for years, just through Reddit, like all unresolved mysteries. You know, it was always on those lists of like top unsolved mysteries. And so it was always kind of in my mind.
Wow.
But when I remember when they revealed her identity, and I was like so shook. I was like,
never saw it coming.
No. And it gives me so much hope for all these stories we cover where it's like, well, maybe we'll know someday. Like, I just live for those breaking news updates when it's like,
think of that cop who or detective or whoever that figured out her name. It was like, oh my God, this is my big case I'll be known for.
This is it. Like, Ruth, her name is Ruth.
Yeah.
I wonder if she was in the Jaws. Like, I know that's, you know, kind of irrelevant, but I'm curious.
It's still interesting. Like, damn, is she on an IMDb anywhere?
Right? Like I wonder if
how crazy.
I wonder if her living family who knows her could look at the screenshots and be like, oh, that's her, you know, or not.
That'd be wild if Stephen King's son slipped in there.
Out of curiosity, if he just happened to know that, you know, or happened to figure that out.
So funky.
Anyway.
Wow. Well, good one, Christine.
And let me see a picture of her. She's beautiful and, like, of course, just looks so happy and, you know, just makes everything worse.
You sent it to Geo's Trio?
Yeah. And look at her beautiful teeth.
Look at her. Those are some good-looking teeth.
Right?
God, she looks like someone who was born in the 30s.
Right? The hair, like the coiffed hair.
Very quintessential.
Yes. And I also, you know, it makes you think, like, if it was the husband, which I think we all agree it's likely that it was the husband, and he had killed his wife, his daughter, all these other people, like, yeah, he would know about fingerprints and dental records. Like, he would know those things. So it does kind of line up in that way as well. Interesting.
It sounds like a pretty solved case to me, at least a massive hurdle ahead.
I mean, the biggest part is that at least she can be buried, you know, with an identity, and like her family knows now.
Yeah. So. And buried next to her parents.
Yes. Which I think is really powerful.
Also, I'm just in general impressed that we got through this for the last hour without any trouble.
I'm like, I want to be excited, but I'm like not touching my computer in case I fuck something up again. Like, imagine.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. And, you know, maybe next week's episode will be a little smoother, but we tried our darndest and it just wasn't cutting it all the way through.
Maybe it will be. Probably it won't be.
Shout out in advance to our editor, Jack, who deserves a hug after this because it's going to be real messy peaceness
He's like,
altogether.
I don't want a hug. I want the beer Christine promised. And that is coming to you, my friend.
Yeah. And until then, I guess we'll see y'all next week. And
yeah, that's
why
we
drink.